Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Tuesday. We are beginning to edge towards the weekend, well, slowly I would say, but still putting to bed what happened against Everton at the weekend, park that and focus just purely on Brentford, which is a huge game, as I spoke about in yesterday's video. The opportunity to bounce back is one that Arsenal certainly have to take ahead of that massive meeting with Manchester City on the Wednesday night. So as we get towards the weekend, then we will, of course, focus a lot on the Brentford game, who might play, what the big decisions Mikel Arteta has ahead of him, that sort of thing. Mikel's press conference is going to be on Friday by the looks of it. It's not been fully confirmed yet, and Arsenal, as they tend to do, these things do change. But at the moment, I believe it's penciled in for Friday around 1:30 p.m. So I'll be heading to that, and we'll get all the very latest from Mikel ahead of that Brentford game. Lots for him to discuss after that defeat at Everton, whether he will make any changes, whether he thinks he needs to make any changes to his starting 11 to freshen things up a little bit, especially with that Man City game ahead. And I'm sure he'll certainly be asked, whether he answers remains to be seen, but I'm sure he'll certainly be asked about what's going on at Manchester City at the moment, a club obviously he has very close ties to. So yeah, it'll be interesting to get his views on that as that story continues to rumble on, and I think it will certainly rumble on for some time. Yeah, if anyone's sitting there hoping for a quick sort of resolution to this one, I wouldn't be expecting it too much, because it has all the hallmarks of something that's going to rumble on for a long time yet before we get any sort of definitive decision on what happens with Manchester City, whether they're found guilty or not. But anyway, we don't want to sit here talking about Manchester City, do we? What I was going to talk about today is a bit of a sort of opinion-based video today about Declan Rice. I get lots of comments, lots of questions about Declan Rice. Obviously going to be one of the big transfer stories of the summer, if not the biggest one. Certainly him and Jude Bellingham, you would expect, are going to be the two players that dominate the headlines transfer-wise ahead of this summer. And Declan Rice is a player that we know that Arsenal are very interested in and will be in the mix for him should West Ham decide to cash in this summer, as many people expect them to do. Now, Declan Rice, if anyone saw the game against Newcastle at the weekend, and I didn't because I was driving home listening to it on the radio, but the radio, everyone on it, talking on it, commentating on it, was raving about the performance of Declan Rice, and I've seen the sort of YouTube clip compilations of just how well he played in that game. And I mean, we didn't need to see him play well in that game to know that Declan Rice is a very, very good player. And is going to be so in demand this summer with Arsenal. United, you would expect. Chelsea are certainly going to be in the mix, you would expect, given his connection with Chelsea. And it's going to be intriguing. Jim White, obviously former Sky Sports, now at TalkSport, was on this morning, and he always on yesterday, I think it was, and he revealed that he's been told that West Ham are going to want £120 million plus add-ons. That's the price that it's going to take to get Declan Rice out of West Ham this summer, which is a very big price, especially for a player at the moment, got 18 months left on his contract with West Ham. And David Moyes was talking about Declan after the game at the weekend against Newcastle, and given his performance, understandably lots of questions were coming into him about his future and what's going to happen with his contract. Is he going to be potentially sold this summer? And this is what David Moyes had to say. He said, undoubtedly Declan is going to be a top player. He'll be a British transfer record if he ever leaves West Ham. There's lots of talk about it, and when you see what's going on for the prices, I think Dec will be blowing that out of the water, that's for sure, when it comes around. Now, you've got to think Enzo Fernandez has just moved from Benfica to Chelsea for £107 million. That's the British transfer record. Whether you agree with that transfer fee or not is another thing, but that's what Chelsea have paid to get Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea. £107 million for a player who Benfica had only signed for about, I'm not sure the exact figure, it was only about 10 million, I think, not long before that. And when you look at Declan, you look at what he's done for West Ham, how he's performed in the Premier League over the years, what he's done for England at the World Cup, and the fact that he is English and he's only 24. I mean, you look at what David Moyes has said there and you think he's absolutely spot on. You can't imagine it's going to be anything less than a British transfer fee to get Declan Rice out of West Ham in the summer. Now, whether Arsenal could go that far remains to be seen. They were very, very willing to spend big this window in January for Moises Caicedo. That was going to be an Arsenal club record fee if that had gone through, but still you're only talking about 75 million here. If Jim White is correct and it is going to be 120 million plus, then you're looking at another 45 million just on top of that to get Declan Rice. Whether Arsenal could stretch that far remains to be seen. You think their club record at the moment is 72 for Nicolas Pepe. So it's going to be an intriguing one to watch. You kind of look at the finances that could be involved for Arsenal, and the money is clearly there. We saw what they were willing to spend in January. There's plenty of money in the transfer kitty. If, touch wood, Arsenal go on and qualify for the Champions League, whatever happens between now and the end of the season in terms of the title race, if they go and qualify for the Champions League, which it looks pretty much nailed on that they're going to, then those finances that they've got at the moment are going to be boosted even more come the summer, because you can have the guaranteed income from group stage finances for Champions League at the very least, and Arsenal would certainly be hoping to progress through the group stages as well. So that will certainly help when it comes to potentially spending big for someone like a Declan Rice. And there's another TV deal, I think, as well. Clubs know full well how much money they're going to be getting from the overseas TV deal, which is huge. So there's going to be more money coming in from that. We've seen recently that the Cronkies are willing to find money to back Mikel Arteta in the transfer market. I don't think, when you look at what Arsenal are going to do this summer as well, it's not going to be another one where you're buying 5 or 6 players. I think Arsenal have sort of got through those periods in terms of the squad. When you look at the strength of the squad now, you look at where it is, you're kind of looking ahead to this summer as potentially 3 signings maybe. So it's not like you're spreading the cost of all your transfer budget over 5 or 6 signings. You can potentially now, Arsenal have done the hard work in doing that and building up a squad. Now it's about adding quality, perhaps not just quantity. And so if you do sign a Declan Rice, or you are willing to spend that sort of money on Declan Rice, then what you look at, maybe a striker, potentially a striker, but that might not necessarily be the case because you've got the Balogun situation to address. You could bring him back, and then you've got Jesus and Nketiah as Balogun as his 3 strikers next season. I think certainly bringing in cover for Bukayo Saka is absolutely essential in the summer. I think when you look at the squad, Trossard has come in and provided cover for Martinelli. He can play on the right as well, but he's more of a left-sided winger. So I think the one glaring omission in the squad when it comes to squad depth is backup for Bukayo Saka. You've got Reece Nelson, but I wouldn't be surprised if Reece moves on in the summer. He's out of contract. We don't know if he's going to get a new one. And then now they've signed cover for Gabriel as well at left back, left-sided centre-back. There's not too many areas there, so you could potentially spend big. It's one summer where you could see Arsenal committing to that sort of money, which they've never done before, because they know they're only going to be signing potentially 2 or maybe at a push 3 players in the summer. So look, we know they're interested. They're not stupid. They're going to know exactly what it's going to cost to get Declan Rice. So there'll be plenty of talks going on in the background with representatives and things like that about who's interested. It was interesting. Adrian Clark, I'm sure you know him, former Arsenal player. He was talking on the Athletics podcast called Handbrake Off, the Arsenal podcast, and he said, and Adrian we know is very close to Arsenal, still he works for them. He said, I can't reveal my source, but I do know that Declan Rice has been sounding out people connected with Arsenal in regards to what's it like there, what's it really like. So that sounds like a positive, and that's good. Certainly, I think if Arsenal get Declan Rice, I think it's the biggest signing they would have made since Sol Campbell, in terms of the stature of the player, in terms of the level of competition that they will be up against to sign him. It would be their biggest signing in decades, I think, no doubt about it. Just like I said, the stature of the player. A couple of years ago, you would never dream of Arsenal being able to win a transfer battle for Declan Rice. And I'm not saying they're going to do it this summer, but they're certainly going to be in the mix for it. If they were to get it over the line and beat Chelsea, beat Man United to get him, then it would be a monumental signing for him. And he would 24. He's sort the midfield out for years to come. It'd be that big a signing, in my opinion. You might disagree, and as always, please do let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with what I've had to say. I'm always intrigued to see what you guys think about it. But yeah, I just feel it would be such a transformational signing. Obviously, they're not absolutely crying out for him, because you've got Thomas Partey there, you've got Jorginho who'll be there for another season. But still, the midfield is in need of a shake-up. When you look at the age of Thomas Partey, you look at the age of Granit Xhaka, you certainly look at the age of Jorginho. They're not all young 20-year-olds. The squad is very young everywhere else, but when you look at central midfield, that's the one area where it's aging, and you need to think about reshaping it for the future. And someone like Declan Rice, at only 24 years old, who's only going to get better, who knows the Premier League, who can be box to box, brilliant defensively, can go forward and create as well, as he did against Newcastle at the weekend. It would just be a transformational signing, and like I said, I think anyway, the biggest signing Arsenal would have made in decades for me since Sol Campbell. So, as I said, let me know what you guys think by leaving a comment below on Declan Rice. Okay, elsewhere, quickly, before we end up, got to talk about the Youth Cup last night. What a fantastic win that was for Jack Wilshere's side. 2-0 down against Watford, looking like they were going out of the competition. Came back, scored 4 goals in the second half, won 4-2 to set themselves up for a quarter-final match. That will be against either Cambridge or Sheffield Wednesday at the Emirates, with a date that will be announced fairly soon. Fantastic performance for Arsenal. 2 goals from Cozier Dubry, both of them penalties. Kamara scored 1 and Rosiak as well. And you kind of look at how the Youth Cup campaign is going at the moment. Like I said, they're in the quarter-final now. They're at home. They'll fancy something. They'll back themselves to get through that and set up a semi-final. And then you're right in the mix to win this competition. It's been a long time since Arsenal won the Youth Cup as well. They need to win it. Such a prestigious competition. Arsenal got such a rich history in that competition as well. And it's great to see Jack Wilshere leading this young Arsenal side as well. He spoke about the game afterwards. Yes, he said, I give full credit to the boys because I can give them instructions, but it's up to them to put it into action. To come back in the second half and score 4 goals shows real character and desire. When you're 2 goals down, you need to play with a fire in you, have the desire to win. The boys have a never say die attitude, and coupled with the quality they have, it's hard for teams to play against us. So very happy Jack Wilshere there. As you can imagine, it's going to be a special moment for him managing that quarter-final game that's coming up at the Emirates, standing on the touchline. He's not done that before since he's moved back into coaching after retirement from playing. That will be a very special moment for him, I am sure. And hopefully there'll be a decent crowd there to cheer the Arsenal youngsters on. Okay, before I go, like I said, Arteta's press conference coming up on Friday, 1:30pm at London Colney. So keep your eyes peeled for all the usual stuff on that. I imagine it will all be about the Everton defeat, how his team have responded, whether Emile Smith-Rowe is going to be fit. Certainly the Manchester City saga is going to come up, no doubt about that. So we'll see what Mikel has to say about all of those things. But until then, keep your eyes peeled to my usual social media channels for any Arsenal news that breaks between now and then. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about the latest news that is going on. So have a good day, everyone. I'll speak to you soon.